it's Anya here, and I'm back with another video for Ophelia Talks. And today I'm going to show you how to make the fall into autumn blanket. This is a wonderfully seasonal blanket which I have wanted to do for a long time. The technique we are using in this blanket is called Jacob's ladder, and I have worked out all the ladders throughout the blanket to be nicely spaced and look magnificent once you have laddered them or actually looped them. So this video will be the tutorial on how to make the blanket and the border. I will also have a video available should you by accident forget to make a loop somewhere and you want to insert it. And that video will also show you how to loop the loops in greater detail. There is also a lookbook for this project, so look out for that one. And if you wanted to make this blanket in the exact same colors, we sell this pack on our website, so do go and have a look there. There is also a written pattern available with the exact list of the colors used in the blanket. So go to our website if you're interested in those products, and if you want to get started on the tutorial, then you are in the right place. All you will need in addition to your yarn pack is the hook that you usually use for DK. I use a 3.5, and you will need lots of stitch markers, not only to help you count your starting chain, but also at the end when we are creating the loops, you will need a stitch marker for each row of loops that you have looped. Let's get started. For row 1, we're going to make our slip knot. So make it whichever way you usually make it. Insert your hook. And now we're going to chain 187 chains. So use your stitch markers to help you with counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So here we are. I have my 187 chains. I use the stitch markers every 50 chains, and then at the end here I have 37 chains. So that makes 3 lots of 50. That makes 187 chains. Now for row 2, we're going to chain 1. But that chain 1 is our turning chain. It will help us turn. We are not going to be counting that chain in our count. So we're just going to keep an eye on our last chain that we have done here, because that is the chain that we are going to have to start in to start doing our stitches. So that's our 187th chain. So now do that chain 1. Then that sort of gives us a little bit of height to then do the next stitch, which is the double crochet in the first stitch. So we're going to yarn over into that 187th chain, so skipping the turning chain. You're going to go in and do a double crochet. Voila. Then in fact you're going to do a double crochet in the first 5 stitches. So we need to do another 4 more. So a double crochet is yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now we're going to do 1 double crochet in the next stitch. So 1 double crochet. Then we do 10 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Then we go back to that double crochet that we've just done, and we're going to do a slip stitch into it. So that means you go into it like this, into here, so in the body of the stitch, you pull up a loop and you pull that through the loop on your hook. So then we are going to continue with 1 double crochet in the next 10 chains. So yarn over into the next chain, and we're going to do 10 double crochets. and that's number 10. Then you do a double crochet in the next stitch, chain 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. Then you go into your stitch and you do a slip stitch, and then you continue with your double crochet in the next 10 stitches. Now you know the first row is always a little bit tedious because it's a little bit slower. You are working into the chain, you're still counting very much as well and making sure that it's all correct. But like I always say, take your time for doing this first row. Make sure you count really well so that it is all correct. So 2, 4, 6, 8, and I need 2 more. And that way you will have success for the rest of the blanket because you have started out with everything correct. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, now my 1 double crochet on its own. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 chains. I go back to my double crochet and I go into it sort of up there, do a slip stitch, and I start my 10 double crochets again. And this is how you will continue until the end of the row. Okay, so just for clarity, you have the stitch with the loop on top, then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 stitches, and then your 11th one is the one with the loop. Okay, so I've done 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 here. So the one with the loop, you do that one. Then you make the loop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and make sure your chains actually have a length. Okay, so you need quite a big loop, surprisingly, to be able to loop them. So that's that. So that's made 10 chains, and now here I'm going to come as close as I can so you would still see it. I'm going into, there's this strand hanging there, and there's a strand, and that's sort of where I'm going into to just do a slip stitch. Voila. And this way you've got your loop attached to the top of that stitch again. And that's sort of what you need to make it nice and neat. And then of course you're going to do your 10 double crochets again. So I've made it to the end of my row. There we go. And now here I should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chains left, because of course in the beginning here we also started with 5 chains in which we placed 1 double crochet each. So that's what we are going to do now as well. There we go. So we will have 17 loops on our work here, and of course that will mean we will have 17 braids going up our blanket, and of course that will give us the lovely Jacob's ladder effect. So we are doing 2 rows in the same color, so we are going to stick with this color. Chain 1, you turn your work and you're going to be placing 1 double crochet on top of every double crochet in the row. So that means you're doing 187 double crochets. But of course, when you get to the location of the loop, you just have to make sure that you place a double crochet in the V that's hidden here somewhere. Okay, so make sure you go in to that stitch and you place a double crochet. Okay, and also of course make sure you don't get your loop entangled or involved, because you will need it later on. So you can't have it attached. There we go. And so this is how you are going to continue all the way along your row, placing 1 double crochet in each stitch. So I have now made it to the end of my row, so make sure that you are doing your last sort of 5 double crochets here to end the row after you've done the one into the loop. Okay, so just to make sure that you're not losing stitches, and it's not hard to count to 5, so you know that you've done all the stitches that you need. So now for row 4, we're going to change colors for the first time, and I like to change colors on the last pull through. So when you do your last double crochet, don't pull through on the last pull through. So stop it there, then cut off your yarn, and you're going to start with the next color, which is khaki, and pull it through. There we go. Okay, so now we are ready for our next row, and that starts with chain 1, turn. So in fact this is the repeat of row 2. So row 2 is the one where we make the loops. So we're going to get started by placing 1 double crochet in the first 5 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, okay. Then we are here where we create the loop, and you know now that you're in the right place because it will be into the stitch that comes out of the loop, as you can see there. So you do your double crochet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. And then you go and you do your little slip stitch back into the double crochet, voila. And you continue with doing your 10 stitches. Now make sure you maybe still count them, but you will have an example, of course. You will have the rows underneath to show you when you are nearly there with your 10 stitches. And if you have counted correctly in that first row, you should be able to rely on the fact that yes, the one, hang on a minute, I'm nearly there. There we go. The one, look, the one that's situated here, that's the one where you're going to be putting your next loop, of course. So double crochet, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and in there. Voila. And off we go again. So after this khaki row is finished, I will do row 5, and that's a row 3. So you will be keeping on doing row 2, row 3, row 2, row 3 all throughout the blanket, following the color order from the color table in your printed pattern. Now, if you do not have the pattern and you are making this as a stash buster, then just choose the colors as you want them. Make sure you have contrasting colors next to each other so that the loops will loop into each other and they will create a lovely contrasting effect. Talking about the loops, leave them hanging out like this, as you can see, on the blanket, and we will sort them out before you do your last row. So you are now going to work until you have done row 135. Let's loop the loops. So to loop your loops, as you can see, I have already done this here. So you're going to go to the base of your blanket and you find your first loop, and then you're going to take this loop and put the next one through the previous one. So make sure they're lying nice and flat, then take the next one, put it through the previous one. There we go. And this is how you're going to do the whole row. So let me show you up close. So you take the next loop, put it through the previous one, next loop, open up the previous one, put it through, and making sure they're lying nice and stretched flat onto your blanket. Now when you get to the end of the row, you're going to have to secure the last loop with a stitch marker and secure it into the last row that you crocheted right there. So that way you will be able to crochet onto there a row first before we actually do another row where we will be attaching the loops. So you need the stitch markers to secure your loops so they don't get undone. So I'm going to go back to my last stitch of row 135. Obviously this is where we change colors, so I don't pull through on the last pull through, and I attach my new color, which is toy. There we go. So now we're going to chain one, turn, and we are going to do 1 double crochet in each stitch of the row. So this row we will be placing 1 double crochet in each stitch, and very simply we will just be going past the loops as they are, so they are still attached with the stitch markers, and I will see you at the end of the row. Okay, so I have made it to the end of the row. I'm now going to do my chain one and turn. And yes, I've got to turn the whole blanket, so let's let's do that. Right, there we go. So now, of course, you're going to get started on doing another row of double crochets, but you're going to have to anchor the loops, because otherwise obviously they're never going to get attached and we can't have a blanket with all those stitch markers on it. So do your 5 first double crochets to get started, then go and find your loop, so undo the stitch marker, pull up the loop, and you're going to take it as you go into your stitch. So you yarn over, you go into your stitch, so you pick up the 2 V's, and you also go into the loop. Then you bring your yarn through and you do your double crochet as usual. And then of course you continue with doing your 10 double crochets, and then of course you do the same in that next location where you have a loop. So if you want to make sure that you are doing this in the 11th stitch, make sure that you have 10 stitches from, you know, the one where you did the loop. So then once again you are going to go and find the loop, remove the stitch marker, pull up the loop like so, you yarn over, insert into the stitch and insert into the loop, bring back your yarn, and off you go. And then you can count to 10 if that makes it easier. So I've now done 2 stitches there. So this is what it is going to look like. So let me show you properly. So we have the stitch looped around the top of our loop, and I think that looks nice and neat. So you will have to do this for the rest of the row, and finally we can remove all those stitch markers. So make sure that before you do that you check each row to see if you have looped them properly, and of course if there aren't any missing. If there are any missing, I have got a video coming up to show you how to put an extra loop in should you have missed one there, so you don't have to take out the whole blanket. Now, because we're working on the back of our blanket, it's really difficult to see where exactly the loops are. So make sure that after you have done one, you do count your 10 double crochets, and then you know that the 11th one you have to look and attach your loop, or deal with the stitch marker first, and then take in the loop as well as you're making your stitch. And make sure you don't twist your loop here, because I had to undo this one and do it again because my loop got twisted in the process of trying to get the stitch marker out. Okay, so make sure you do this row counting and take your time, because this is the last row of your blanket. It's going to be the finishing row. It's attaching all the loops, making sure that they're not going to be able to come undone. But this is a very important row to get right. Okay, so make sure you count your double crochets after you have attached. And because here I can see the stitch marker is here, but that's not the location, of course, where my loop is. Okay, my loop is on this stitch here, so the stitch marker is a random location. Don't go for those locations. So make sure you are counting your stitches, count to 10, then the 11th one you attach your loop. Good luck, and I'll see you at the end of the row. I have made it to the end of the row here, so let me just finish that last stitch. Now, of course, it's time to cut off the yarn, and of course here for this blanket it is important to stay on top of your ends. So I've done all of them apart from these few last ones, so I'm just going to do these. I'm just going to sew these in, and then we'll be ready to do the border. Okay, so it's border time. So for the border, you will notice that if you are using the pack for this blanket, you will see that you have 3 balls that you have used a minimum of. So that is mocha, claret and stone, and those are of course the colors that I designated for the border. So to get started with the border, we're going to do the first round in mocha. You're going to get started with your slip knot around your hook, and of course you're going to have to make sure that you have the blanket facing the front towards you, obviously with the loops facing you, and we're going to get into the corner here. So let's see if we can find a stitch that we can designate as being the corner. And as you can see, this one here is a bit bigger than all the others. So yeah, that's the one that I'm going to be using for the corner. We are going to use a small multiple for this border, which is 2. But if it doesn't work out, we'll just do an extra one. Okay, so it doesn't really matter. But because we have a multiple, we are going to get started in the corner so that we don't get into problems straight away. If we just chose here and it didn't work out, then already we're correcting, and it might be that it works out. Who knows? Okay, so let's get started with putting 2 single crochets into this location. Then we do 2 chains, and then we do another 2 single crochets in that same location. So yes, we are using single crochets for this border. We are going to do a very simple design for the border because I don't want the border to detract from the loveliness of the loops, from the effect of the blanket. Okay, so it's a smallish border which I hope will do the design inside the blanket justice. So we've made a corner. Now we are going to chain 1. We're going to skip a stitch, and then we're going to do a single crochet in the next stitch. Now obviously I don't have actual stitches here, so you're going to pretend that this, for example, could be your next location for a stitch. So we're going to skip that one, and then here we will do a single crochet. So chain 1, pretend that it could have been inserted here, then next one is just about there. So you're going to keep a little bit more of spacing in between the stitches as you would normally do, but in doing so, make sure you don't do it too much so you pucker up the blanket and your fabric goes like this. But make sure, yeah, let's have a look, that you can still straighten it out nicely. And you also have to do enough stitches, okay? Don't start not skipping any location. So that would be a location skipped. This one is the next one. If I was to say, oh, I'll just do it here and I'll chain one and I'll do it here and I'll chain one and I'll do it here. No, that's too many stitches there and you're going to get a wavy border. Okay, so now I have to undo these. There we go. Get back into it. Voila. So make sure you are leaving some space where you would normally have put a stitch. So yeah, maybe as I usually do, I do 3 stitches per the height of a lot of 2 double crochets. So in a way, this is a stitch, and then the next chain is also the stitch, you see. So I should be in the green now. There we go, see? So again, take your time to do this. Lay your blanket down to make sure that it still lies flat nicely, okay? And if it does pucker up, undo it and do it a little bit looser. But this would be too easy. So you know me, how I love to do all my rows at the same time. So that's what we're going to do. And this makes it easier for me to film as well. So I can just go and sit down on the sofa in a moment with my 3 balls of yarn. And I just can keep crocheting. And you know, I love doing that. Slip knot, insert your hook. We are going to start anywhere around a chain space. So in between 2 stitches, there will be a chain space. So around the chain space, you're going to do a single crochet. Then you're going to chain 1. Then you look for the next chain space and you do a single crochet. Chain 1, single crochet around the next chain space. There we go. And this is how you're going to do this row. Very easy, because of course you have done the hard work with the mocha row. And again, still make sure that it is not puckering up or that your blanket is not getting wavy. Yeah, I think that's okay. Obviously, I'm only doing a short amount here. You've got to keep on assessing the border throughout your blanket. Okay, so you can correct things. Yes, I am going to do the 3rd round as well. So here we are with the stone. Let's do our slip knot, insert your hook, voila. And we're going to do exactly the same thing. So you get started around a claret chain space and you're going to do a single crochet. Chain 1 and a single crochet around the chain space. Now, all the corners that you're going to make are made the same way. So each corner is done by doing 2 single crochets, 2 chains and 2 single crochets. So each time in the corners you will be placing 2 single crochets, 2 chains, 2 single crochets, and then in the next color 2 single crochets, 2 chains and 2 single crochets. Now if it doesn't work out, okay, if you find that you have an extra stitch, just skip an extra stitch or do an extra single crochet. But for me it has worked out reasonably well and I've had no problems doing this. And so I'm going to now continue doing my borders in the 3 colors, and of course straight away, look at this, I can see what my border is going to look like. So of course, when you do the sides where you have the tops of the stitches or the base of the chain, you are just simply going to use them. So you chain one, skip one, and then use the next stitch for your location of your single crochet. So that makes it a little bit easier on those sides, but of course, you know, the sides here, you just have to make your own gauge there. So here I am now finished with doing my mock around. I have gone all the way around and I've just got one more stitch to skip there, so that's good, it worked out. Then I'm going to do a slip stitch into that first single crochet that we did. There we go. And that has finished my first round of my border, the mock around. So let's cut off the yarn. We will pull out the loop there, voila, and now of course off we go with the second color. And this was a surprisingly easy and quick border to make. So all you have to do in this second border, of course, is find the chain spaces, do your single crochet around them, and then do a chain one, and off you go again to the next chain space. So when you get to right in front of the corner, what I've been doing is just doing one chain and then going into the corner chain space there to place my corner stitches of 2 single crochets, 2 chains, turn, 2 single crochets. There we go, and we've made our corner. Voila. And then I do a chain one, skip these 2 stitches here, and then you continue with doing your single crochet around the chain space, do a chain, and here I'm going to go under the first claret V there to do my slip stitch, and there as well I have now finished that round of the border. And of course I have this one here as well. It was fun doing them all together. I really like doing that. Makes it so much easier. Well, I think anyway. It seems a bit more efficient. It's a little bit cumbersome with all the balls hanging on your blanket, but you know, because you know it's the last bits, it does, I put up with it, let's put it that way. It's worth it almost. So yeah, so here again, chain one, skip these, go into your corner chain space, 2 single crochets, 2 chains, and 2 single crochets. And then we chain one, skip these ones from the corner, and we do a single crochet. And then of course we're going to continue until we meet the first stitch that we did. Let's pull this one through there. Voila, here we are. So past that end there, that was just in my way a bit. And of course we will be closing up the round here as well. And then the last thing to do is to sew in the ends, and then we have finished our blanket. And of course, I would love to see your progress pictures in the Facebook group Ophelia Talks Crochet. Also, look out for the lookbook of this blanket and the problem solving video published later on this month. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!